All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show. Let's get it rolling. We're going to talk a little bit about the Niners. They met with 8 new draft prospects, and there's some really exciting names among these 8 players. So we're going to talk about them. We're going to answer your questions. It's all straight ahead. Check it out. And of course, we are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And we're also brought to you, of course, by Sharp Corners, sports cards, and collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. Thanks to my good friend Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. And we are also brought to you by Mancini's. That's right. Mancini's Sleep World is a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Mancini's offers a 120-night guarantee with a range of brands and price points. With Mancini's, you get free next-day delivery. So all you got to do, click the link below or go to sleepworld.com and find a bed that works for you. And if you type in the code KRUG10, K-R-U-E-G 10, at any of Mancini's locations or online at sleepworld.com, you will get 10% off your total mattress purchase. Once again, you got to use that code KRUG10. A couple people have contacted me and said, Krug, I got incredible savings on my bed thanks to you. There you go. Go to Mancini's, type in KRUG10, K-R-U-E-G 10, KRUG10, and you'll get 10% off. Again, that's KRUG10 in any of Mancini's locations or online at sleepworld.com. Let's talk a little football right here, right now. All right, welcome to the Krug Show as we get it revved up for you. It's February the 19th, right around 8:30 West Coast, 11:30 East Coast. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Tonight, we are going to get into a little NFL draft, and that's because the Niners have met with 8 new prospects, and there's some really interesting names on the list. And we also did a full draft show earlier tonight on KMBR with Ryan Fowler from the Draft Network, and I see a lot of people with their questions and comments in the chat. So absolutely, I will answer any and all questions in the chat. If you throw your question in the chat, as soon as we go through these 8 prospects, I will jump over to the chat and I will definitely read your questions and try to answer as many as we possibly can in the amount of time that we have, which I don't know how much time that is, roughly an hour, I would think we'll go tonight. But the Niners met with 8 new players. Now, Steph Sanchez, who covers the 49ers, she's a content creator on Twitter. She's a good follow, and she has a list up of all the different players that the 49ers have met with at the different All-Star games. And it's a good list to keep track of. Why? Because I went through and looked at last year's draft and the year before's draft, and what I discovered was the 49ers drafted or added to the roster 23 players that they met with before before one of the last 2 drafts. So just because the Niners meet with you doesn't mean that they're going to draft you. But when they do meet with you, that's a good indication they have interest. Why? Because there's a very limited amount of time in this draft buildup from the end of the college football season till the actual draft in late April. So you're not going to meet with players that you have no interest in. You're really going to meet with players that you do have interest in and that you might have a question about, or you may just want to get to know them a little bit better. But generally, now some teams will meet with guys that they don't like or don't really believe in to throw people off their scent, but most teams don't have the time. So you're going to meet with players that you typically like and that you think are good prospects. And the Niners have met with 8 additional players here in the last week, or at least it's been reported in the last week. And we're going to go through all 8 and talk about them right now. So let's get right into it. The first guy on the list is a guy who's had a very interesting college career, and that is Cole Taylor, the West Virginia tight end who the Niners met with at the Hula Bowl. Why do I say he's got an interesting college career? Well, he played for 2 of the most passionate, hardcore college football fan bases in the country. He started at LSU, and then he transferred and he went and played for West Virginia. There aren't too many people who have LSU and then West Virginia on the resume, but Cole Taylor does, and that's Cole with a K, by the way. Cole Taylor. He's a 6'7", 255-pound tight end who finished up this year at West Virginia. Now, at LSU, he was kind of more of an inline blocker exclusively. But he really has demonstrated since he went to West Virginia that he's an all-around tight end. He led West Virginia in receptions in 2023. He was second in receptions for West Virginia this year in 2024. And if you look at Cole Taylor at 6'7", 255 pounds, this is a guy who's got great hands, and he loves to run across the middle. He also forces a lot of missed tackles. He forced 13 missed tackles this year, third best in the nation among all tight ends. So, it's an incredibly deep tight end class, and there's all kinds of good tight ends in this draft, to the point where Cole Taylor was not even invited to the combine. So you're not going to see him in Indy. But he's an intriguing receiver. And as I said, he loves to run across the middle. He's tough. He's got good hands. He can do both. He's an all-around player. He's a strong inline blocker, but he's also a guy who can go over the middle and catch the ball and runs a lot of routes. And I think he's really a well above average receiver. So he's got quickness. He's got elusiveness. He's got good hands. He's athletic. He'll high point the ball. He doesn't body catch. He plucks it with his hands, and he's huge. 6'7", 255. So I like Cole Taylor, day 3 pick for sure. We'll see what he runs at his pro day. And I don't know what exactly he's going to run. He's not a burner per se, that's for sure. But he's an all-around tight end. He can block. He can catch. He's got good size. He's projectable. And you look at the way this guy runs across the middle of the field and the hands that he demonstrates, solid player. Really solid player. And I'm thinking a late day 3 pick, maybe even an undrafted player, but Cole Taylor is a name that you should remember. And as I said, the Niners met with him at the Hula Bowl. Another guy on the list here that the Niners met at the Senior Bowl is Jalen Joiner, the Minnesota defensive end. Minnesota has a couple good defensive ends, Strigow and now Joiner. Joiner's 6'4", about 263 pounds. He's got a bunch of good moves. I mean, he's got a killer rip move. He's got an excellent stutter swim move where he gives you a little sidestep and then he swims over, usually right hand over. Really intriguing pass rusher. He was committed to Boston College and then changed his mind and wound up at Minnesota. Started 12 games this year. He had 4.5 sacks. This guy flies off the edge. They clocked him at 19.6 miles per hour. He's played in a 2-point stance. He's played in a 3-point stance. He says he prefers playing in a 3-point stance. He's got really long arms, 34 and 3/4 inch arms. And he's just got elite get off. If you're a pass rusher, you work on your get off all the time. How quickly you get off the ball. You don't want to get left in your stance. You don't want to get left behind. You got to get off the ball. This guy gets off the ball. Now, who does he love to study? Believe it or not, one of the guys that he really likes watching is Arden Key. He said he studied Arden Key and all the moves that Arden Key has. What's interesting, the Niner connection here is that KJ Wright, who's a 49er coach, was in Mobile coaching the pass rushers, and one of the guys that he was coaching up heavily during the practices was Jalen Joiner. So, I mean, you could see KJ pumping his fist and running up to him and motivating him. So I'm sure they're going to listen to KJ on Jalen Joiner. And KJ, he wasn't the only edge rusher that KJ worked with, but you could see KJ had an up-close and personal visit with Jalen Joiner throughout the week, and those two guys were really jawing back and forth throughout the practices. So that's number 2 on the list, Jalen Joiner, 6'4", 263-pound defensive end from the University of Minnesota. Number 3 on the list is a guy that I absolutely love, and that's David Walker. It's kind of a forgettable name. He started at Western Arkansas, or Southern Arkansas, and he transferred to Central Arkansas. Niners met with him at the Senior Bowl. He's an odd-shaped guy. I mean, he's 6 feet tall and 270 pounds. 6 feet and 5/8 to be exact, 267 pounds to be exact, and he's got short arms, 31 3/4 inch arms. So, I mean, right there, you say 6 feet, 31-inch arms, but then flip on the film. Okay. And when you flip on the film, what you see, and I would say the comp that I would give him is Marcus Golden, the former Missouri Tiger. This guy cannot be blocked. I mean, David Walker is a monster. I want this guy if I'm the 49ers. He reminds me of Marcus Golden. He's productive as hell. The last 3 years, this guy had 37 sacks, 151 pressures, and 5 forced fumbles in the last 3 seasons combined. Now, granted, he's playing at Central Arkansas, and before that, he's playing at some Western or Southern Arkansas. So he's not necessarily playing at a high level of competition. But this was another guy who was coached up this week by KJ Wright down in Mobile, or a couple weeks ago now. And KJ, you could see, was super excited about David Wright. The comps that I'm seeing on David Wright are Brandon Graham, but I'll say this: he's way, way better athlete than Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham is a good player, and I can see why they make the comparisons. Shorter guy with power, but this guy's quite a bit more athletic than Brandon Graham. Now, I do want to share the screen and show you one of the highlights of David Walker because it's unreal. Here he is. Okay, we'll make this bigger so you guys can see it, and we'll roll it back. Here he is circled right here in the red, and he's going to bulldoze this offensive tackle. And it's amazing. All right, here we go. What? I mean, what is going on there? That guy's probably 300 pounds. And Walker just uplifts him and decleats him. And he's so explosive that he throws him past the quarterback. I mean, that's strength. I mean, that's bull rush right there. Now, granted, it's Central Arkansas. This guy's going to play in the NFL. Probably should be dominating at Central Arkansas. But still, man, look at the strength. You don't see that. You don't see that a lot. I mean, sometimes you got to watch film and look for the things that you don't see. You don't see that. You don't see a 6 foot, 270-pound defensive end just get inside the pads on an offensive tackle and put him on his can. I mean, that is awesome. That is incredible. So there you go. David Walker. That's an incredible highlight right there. I'll give you another one, though, of Walker because that one's just like a one play deal. Here's another one from Walker. And we'll make this a little bigger. You can see this. Roll this back a little bit. There we go. Now he's at right defensive end right here, going up against the left tackle. This is the Senior Bowl. This is the actual game. This is Riley Leonard, I believe, the quarterback. And watch Walker here. Now, he didn't get off his stance. The tight end went out. He beats the tackle though and gets in the backfield. Watch it again. Oh, here he is. He's on the other side now. Now that's another bull rush. I mean, he just makes that tackle look bad. Whoever 52 was. Now he's over the tight end on the right, a defensive right, and he gets pressure on the quarterback and bothers him. Now he's on the defensive right. He's literally tackle's going to kick out. That's Carson Vinson, who held him, had to hold him. Now here he is again, working back inside. I mean, you're just talking about he's a smaller guy, but he just keeps coming. The motor's amazing. You can't block him. The leverage is unbelievable. He's just a really, really exciting player. There he is coming off the edge there. Now this is a great one, actually. We should probably roll this one back. Look at this play. Look at this jump cut out of his stance. He's going to cut inside. He's over here on the defensive left side, and he just absolutely goes right by that offensive lineman. That's a bad day at the office for 71. He's just in there, and then he had to be held twice. Otherwise, he's making the tackle. Now he's a stand-up rusher going up against my man Jackson Slater, and he bull rushes him. Slater stonewalled tons of people. So for him to get worked there by Walker is really saying something. But there you go. David Walker. David Walker, ladies and gentlemen. Really intriguing player. Very, very special player. And nobody had a closer look at it all week than KJ Wright. And I would love to interview KJ Wright right now and say, hey, let's talk DNs. Let's talk Olufemi Oladejo. Let's talk Jalen Joiner. Let's talk David Walker. The fact that KJ was in Mobile and coached these guys up, he's probably going to have a great report, a very detailed report on everything about these guys. So David Walker, love David Walker. He is number 3 on the list. All right, number 4 is Jeremiah Hunter. And you say, why do I know that name? Niners met with him at the Tropical Bowl. He started at Cal. He made 23 starts for the Cal Bears. He's a 6'2", 210-pound wide receiver, 180 receptions and 14 touchdowns in 4 years in college. Super competitive player. He's from Fresno. This guy averaged 14.3 yards per catch. He's also a punt returner. He's a deep threat. He thrives in jump ball situations. He'll high point the ball. Finished this year for UW Huskies, and he's, as I said, he's a deep threat, and he loves it when you throw the ball up in a crowd. This guy was like the king of 3 flies up, and he's a dangerous punt returner. The question is, what's his 40 going to be? Because in college, he's a deep threat. In college, this guy gets down the field. In college, this guy makes plays down the field pretty consistently. Super competitive at the catch point. As I said, big body, 6'2", 210. 14.3 yards per catch is a stunning statistic. And when you look at him as a punt returner, he's got a lot of juice, Now, I haven't been able to really discern what his 40 time is. I saw some people estimate 4.6. He looks faster than that to me. If he's a 4.6 guy, then he's not really a deep threat in the NFL, and he might be more of just a college player. But Jeremiah Hunter was a deep threat in college and a very good punt returner. And as I said, he started at Cal, finished up at UW, and had a really good college career. So Niners met him at the Tropical Bowl, and they're looking for a receiver that can make plays down the field. And Jeremiah Hunter's on their list. Okay, so those are the first 4 guys. Now, the second 4 guys, let's get into them as well. And there is no distinction between the first 4 and the second 4. There's no order of this. Just the order that I wrote them down. Another guy that the 49ers met with at the East-West Shrine game is Indiana defensive tackle C.J. West. C.J. West is built kind of along the lines of D.J. Jones. 6'2", 320 pounds, and he was unblockable in Frisco, Texas during the Shrine practices leading up to that game. He's a Chicago kid, won a state title in high school, and then went to Kent State, 39 games, really good player in the MAC. This guy was a linebacker in high school, and he just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. This year, he was 4th in the nation in tackles for loss among all defensive tackles. What he has is what you can't teach. He's got burst. This guy's got tremendous burst. You can't block him. He was unblockable in Chicago or in Frisco. Unblockable, quick, strong, and powerful. You can't stay in front of this guy. Now, he hasn't always played to this level. He is playing his best football right now. Now, what's interesting about him is, he's a powerhouse of a player. So, he could be, a 1 technique. I think in the Niners front, he's a 3 technique. He's got a really, really good spin move. What he needs to work on is getting off the football. This guy gets left all the time. That's what's so kind of amazing about his production and his success is that he's not getting out of his stance. He's not getting off the ball. The one thing that I absolutely will guarantee you is that if he plays for Chris Kasarik, Chris will have him getting off the football. But what this guy has, Chris is going to love, and you can't teach, and that is just a rare power and explosiveness it's just him. It's just him. This is how CJ West is built. He's a super, super athlete. If he can get off the ball, then he's that burst to the quarterback is really going to show itself. This guy was 4th in the nation in tackles for loss among defensive tackles, and he didn't get off the football. I watched 2 games of his. I watched all of the reps, from the Shrine, and I've seen this guy play a couple times live. This guy doesn't get off the ball, but he still is that explosive and that quick and that fast that he still has tremendous tremendous pass rush ability, even though he's, the offensive guards are usually waiting for him. But he's just powerful and explosive. He's got to learn to use his hands better. He's raw. This is a raw player. This is not going to be a day one player. This is not going to be a day two player. CJ West is going to be a day three player, and he is going to be a day three steal. Mark it down. And if he goes to a team like San Francisco with a defensive line coach like Kasarik, who will absolutely drill him constantly on getting off the ball, this guy's going to be a beast because he can play the run and the pass. When you're 6'2" and 320 and they can't move you and got tremendous burst, you're hard to block. I mean, you can't. This guy I think is going to dramatically outperform his draft position. He's probably going to go, I would say, in the fifth round, maybe even the sixth round. It's a loaded defensive tackle draft, and when you hear guys talking about, oh, it's really loaded, guys like this are going to wind up, going later in the draft. Now, I'm going to share the screen because I want to show this player to you. I've talked him up so much, I got to show him. Here he is right here. And this is a guy who's, wait, hold on a second. I said here he is, but then I didn't actually click the button. There we go. We got the NFL draft file. So CJ West is a defensive tackle prospect who pops on film. He posted an 88.1 run defense grade, 25 pressures, as basically they're saying here what I just said, which is he's capable of playing the 1 tech or the 3 tech. They list him here at 6'1", 314. I think he's 6'2", about 320. They say he reminds them of Poona Ford. I love Poona Ford, by the way. All right, here is Poona's, Poona played this year for the Chargers and made a big impact, but he was very good in Seattle before that and for Texas in college. All right, here's CJ West. Okay, he's lined up over between the right guard and the right tackle. This is him right here. And watch the snap. He typically doesn't get off the ball, but what he does do is just work to the quarterback and show great power, great strength, and great quickness. Here it is. Getting comboed, splits it, and brings the quarterback down. He's getting comboed, throws that guy away. There he is. Combo, no, not a combo there. Now that's a nice one. Let's go back to that one for a second. So here, 51, good player, by the way, trying to block him, and he just throws him away. Goodbye. Now impact the quarterback. Comboed, bounced around, makes the tackle. Stand up, throw that guy away. I mean, do you see the strength? You can't get rid of this guy. This is Notre Dame. This is the Notre Dame game. They're running up the middle. The 2 guys combo him, and he's still right there. Now he's in the backfield. This guy's, look at the base. Look at the strength. Look at the explosiveness. And if you watch it live, it's even more impressive. I mean, this guy really is an explosive mover. He can't be blocked. I mean, these are good teams. That's Michigan right there. And, you got 2 guys. There he is working back. Somebody cut his legs. He's still making a play. This is the one I love. Just throws that guy away, throws the running back down. So you guys get an idea. CJ West from Indiana. Started at Kent State, finished up at Indiana, and wow. I mean, really, really good player. And you can see this guy just kept getting bigger. Linebacker in high school, super athletic. All right, next guy on my list, Trey Goodman, wide receiver from UTEP. Niners met him at the Tropical Bowl. This guy's kind of a personal favorite. This guy started at Austin Peay, and then the coach left Austin Peay and went to UTEP, and he followed the coach from Clarksville, Tennessee to El Paso, Texas. I mean, that right there tells me that, I love that. I mean, when you're leaving your comfort zone and you're living in Clarksville, Tennessee, and someone says, hey, let's get out to West Texas, and you're like, I'm there, let's do it. I mean, that shows to me a level of dedication. Trey Goodman is a 5'11", 175-pound wide receiver, kicker, punt returner, and he's a deep threat. And I don't know exactly what his 40 time is going to be, but it's going to matter. But I love this kid. This is a great kid. He's married. He's a father. He already has 2 young girls. He's smart. He's mature. He's a leader. He's a deep threat. He's a punt returner. I got to see exactly what the 40 time looks like, but man, he's athletic on film. He really does. He makes some big plays. So, Trey Goodman. I mean, this is another guy. In the minutia between now and April, there'll be some Twitter thing that says Trey Goodman in his pro day today ran 4.31. And I'll be looking for that. That's one of the times I'll be looking for between now and April is what did Trey Goodman run, because this guy can play, and if he runs sub 4.4, man, yeah, I think this is going to be a day 3 pick. Now, if he's small, he's only 175 pounds, but great kid, great athletic kid, leader, mature, as I said, goal oriented. This guy's faith oriented. I mean, this guy's a tremendous person. Now it's all going to come down to that 40. He's an Atlanta kid. He's very athletic. There's no question about that. But if he doesn't have the long speed at 175 pounds, he's probably going to just be an undrafted guy that's going to have to, sign on and, beg to come to camp and see if he can open some eyes in the preseason. If he runs sub 4.4, then you know what? He might be a day 3 pick. And there's lots of production there. Lots to like. So Trey Goodman, wide receiver from UTEP, check him out. Niners met him at the Tropical Bowl. Another guy that I really kind of like, and I think I got to watch more of this guy because this is a great story. Anthony Torres, the tight end from Toledo. Niners met him at the Hula Bowl. He's a 6'6", 250-pound tight end. Now, this is a guy who was on his way to Iowa. And we all know, I mean, who's been the tight ends at Iowa? Dallas Clark, Laporta, there's Noah Fant, and others, right? There's been Iowa's a tight end factory. George Kittle, we all know George Kittle. Well, Anthony Torres was in line to be in that lineage of great tight ends going to University of Iowa. And what happened was he went to a football camp, and he, like between high school and college, and he hurt his back. And I hurt his back really badly, and it set him back. And he didn't wind up going there. He wound up going to Western Michigan instead. So he was on his way to Iowa, hurts his back, winds up going to Western Michigan, played 7 years of college ball, by the way, 7 years. Another guy, he's married, very mature, but there's a lot to like here. This guy, first of all, he's big body, right? 6'6", 250. Got his bachelor's from Western Michigan, working on an MBA right now. So he's a smart guy. You got to be smart to play tight end for the 49ers. A lot of shifting, a lot of motions, a lot of formations, a lot of everything. Why do some players fail at tight end for the Niners? It's probably because they're not that sharp. Who did the Niners draft at tight end and redshirted him this year and are bringing him to camp next year? Mason Pline. He's a mechanical engineering major. And, he's really, really smart, right? So really, really smart works for the Niners, especially at fullback and tight end. Those are the two spots you really got to be sharp. And Anthony Torres is really sharp. He's big. He's physical. He's working on his MBA. Comes from a super athletic family. His brother played hoops at Notre Dame. His mom played soccer at Notre Dame. He grew up basically like 15 minutes away from Notre Dame's campus. But they didn't recruit him. And he was going to go to Iowa, wound up at Western Michigan, and then transferred to Toledo to finish up. 7 years in college. As I said, he's married. He became an all-MAC tight end at Toledo. 7 touchdowns this year, but he's an excellent blocker. So there's a lot to like here, man. I mean, obviously you gotta look into the physical and figure out, does he have any lingering issues with the back? You got to check out the physical, situation. But you're talking about big, strong, fast. He's got that. Smart. He's got that. Athletic genes. He's got that. Collegiate production. He's got that. And he's a receiver, and he's an excellent blocker. So the Niners met him at the Hula Bowl, and he's probably going to be, he's not in a loaded, and I mean loaded tight end draft. He's going to go on day 3. He's a day 3 tight end. But he's a good one. He is a really good one. Very exciting. prospect, and this might be a guy who kind of slips through the cracks. First of all, Iowa has their pick of tight ends, right? It's tight end U. I mean, they produce a ton of good tight ends, and they coach the position really well. So the fact that they wanted this kid tells you an awful lot. All right. And then he gets derailed by, an injury, winds up at Western Michigan. Does he let it, end his dream? No, he keeps going. He gets married. He's got new motivation. He gets his degree. He's working on his master's. And then winds up at Toledo and just had a great year this year. 7 touchdowns and destroyer in the run game. And if you see this guy, he's big and physical. I mean, he looks the part. Anthony Torres is like one of those guys that if he walks through the door, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, we'd like to have that guy. Because he's pretty jacked, and he's got a big frame. He could probably even put on 15 pounds of more weight if he wants. He doesn't look maxed out at all. So Anthony Torres, Toledo tight end. Remember that name. And the 8th and final name on the list here is a guy that, it's funny. I watched a ton of Ole Miss. And for whatever reason, Ole Miss has had so many good players that for whatever reason, this guy just didn't stand out to me. But Chris Paul Jr., not the point guard who flops in the NBA. This is the Ole Miss inside backer. He's a weak side backer. He's from Cordele, Georgia, or Cordell, Georgia. If you're from Georgia, maybe you know how to pronounce that. Freshman year, he was all SEC second team. He can play in a 3-4 defense as an inside backer. He's probably a weak side linebacker in a 4-3. I mean, I really think this guy could play the Mike or the Will. I think he's a stacked backer. He had 25 pressures on the quarterback this year. He had 6 sacks. He had the lowest missed tackle rate among all the players in the class. So he's just super talented. I'm going to show you a film, though, that is not going to be that impressive, but you just got to kind of picture it. This guy has got where he's really special is as a coverage player. And look at this coverage. This is just in the practice at the Shrine game. But this is just blanket coverage right here. A little quick move. I think that might be Rondé Gadsden, the tight end from Syracuse. A little quick move. But Paul's on him, like white on rice. He's all over him. So, I mean, that's the kind of quickness. This is what you see when you watched him this year. Great coverage. Guys can't get away from him. This guy also... No, we'll stop sharing that. This guy also started at Arkansas and then transferred and finished up at Ole Miss. But, man, what a player. What a player. And very, very productive, very, very quick. Just a lot to like. I mean, this guy's really, really good. 49ers were one of the teams that met with him, but a bunch of teams met with him. He wore number 11. He's one of the most explosive inside linebackers in this draft class. He's great. To me, what I love about this player is he's just all around the ball all the time. He's a smart player, gets guys lined up right, and just makes play after play after play after play. He's just really solid. Very productive player, obviously played in the best conference in America, and he's just really good. I mean, he's got great instincts, and you just can't keep him. He doesn't stay blocked at all. I mean, he gets off of blocks. He's 6'1", 235 pounds. We'll see what he runs. I think he's going to be a 4'6" guy, like 4'6", 4'6". But the production, all I look for in these inside backers is just production. 11 tackles against Oklahoma, 10 tackles and 1.5 sacks against Georgia Southern, 86 tackles on the year, 3.5 sacks. He had an interception this year. He's a Georgia kid who started at Arkansas, finished at Ole Miss. Elite instincts. This guy played linebacker and running back in high school. He can cover out of the backfield. But the number one thing, there's 2 words to describe Chris Paul Jr. Field general. That's what he is. He's a field general. And, I'm talking about re-signing Dre Greenlaw and going investing a couple day 2 or day 3 picks in linebackers. And as I said, it's a great group of linebackers, a lot of undersized guys that can run and hit and break down in space, and it's really exciting. To me, the future of NFL football defensively is big, powerful defensive linemen that absorb offensive linemen, and then really fast, instinctive second-level defenders who can go sideline to sideline, cover tons and tons and tons of space, and you keep guys off their legs because you got a big defensive tackle, you got a big defensive end, you've got a line that absorbs all those offensive linemen, and they can't climb to that second level, and they can't pick off the great speed linebackers in this draft. And Chris Paul is one of them, and he's probably going to go in the 3rd round. I love this player, man. This is a guy who is going to play and have a very good career in the NFL. And, I almost feel, if you say there's a bust rate on all these guys, right? And I'm like, oh, there's no question. There's always a bust rate. Who do I believe in most of this list? I'd probably say David Walker and Chris Paul and CJ West. Those would be the 3 guys that I think are the best of this group. But there's a lot of intriguing guys. I told you all about Torres. But as far as I could see Chris Paul stepping in to a team that has Fred Warner and hopefully has Dre Greenlaw. And I could see these guys by, middle of August saying to me, hey, Krug, this guy's the real deal. Check out this kid, Paul. I mean, they're going to love this guy because he's instinctive and he's looking to make plays, and he makes play after play after play after play. So really like those guys. So there you go. Those are the 8 guys that the 49ers have met with most recently. And if you don't follow Steph Sanchez on Twitter, you probably should. And let me see what her, maybe I could show her list here, so then we can give it a little bit more pub. But yeah, she covers the 49ers. I think she works for Gold something network or Gold, let's see. What is it? Gold Standard. Is that it? She is producer and host of 49K Pod, Bully Ball co-host. Anyway, she on her thing, she has this sheet, and this is basically it. I'm going to share the screen, and you guys can take a look and get an idea. It's just a file that she has all the names that the Niners have met with. And it works from the bottom to the top. As far as the first guys they met with are, down here, Rock Taylor. That first one was January 7th, and the latest ones were put in today. As you can see, Cole Taylor, Jalen Joiner, some of these guys were put in yesterday. But just looking at this list of the guys, and as I said, the Niners drafted 23 guys in the last 2 years they met with before the draft. So this is not like, oh, yeah, you know what, this doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to draft guys, but it absolutely guarantees that they're interested. On this list that we didn't cover, there's several good players, but B.J. Green played for Dion. He's a 6 foot, 260-pound defensive end from Colorado. Niners met him at the Hula Bowl. He's so strong, short and strong, and the guy just keeps coming. He's a really nice player to watch. This guy right here, Shunderick Powell, who's a running back from Central Arkansas, home run hitter, man, returner, big-time speed guy. I don't know what he's going to run, but it's probably in the 4.3s, and he's kind of powerful. He's a running back, return guy, but he is really fun to watch. It's a great name, too, Shunderick Powell. Another guy on this list, there's some good ones here. Taylor Elgersma is the only quarterback, or I should say Chandler Rogers from Cal, but Taylor Elgersma and Chandler Rogers are the only quarterbacks the Niners have met with. This kid Elgersma is really intriguing. He played at Laurier, which is a Canadian school, and the guy's 6'6", 215 pounds with big hands, and you can see he throws a hell of a ball. He was in the Senior Bowl, and obviously he needs development, but this guy can throw the rock, and he's absolutely athletic. And on a 6'6" frame with maturing possibilities. He's really kind of lean, but he's an intriguing guy, and they met with him. That's a guy you guys should check out. Another guy, Carson Bruner, whose daddy was forget his first name, but his daddy played tight end for UW in the late 80s, early 90s. And Carson Bruner is probably not a starting linebacker, but man, this guy loves to play. He's a great special teamer. Andreas Borregales is a kicker. The Niners may be looking for a kicker. Our friend Ryan Fowler reported that the Niners met with Borregales. Jacob Parrish is a very strong corner from K-State. Niners met with him and at the Senior Bowl. And then there's Oluwafemi Oladejo, who's former Cal Bear, former Bruin. Niners met him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was easily one of the most impressive guys at the Senior Bowl. The two Iowa State receivers, Jaden Higgins is the big guy and Jalen Knowles the small guy. They both were awesome. Both caught like 80, 90 balls this year and like 7 or 8, 9 touchdowns, something like that. Both those guys were productive. I kind of like the smaller guy a little bit more for the pros, Jalen Knoll, than Jaden Higgins, but the Niners met with both of them. Rivaldo Fairweather has some of the longest arms of any tight end prospect in the country. I'd like the Niners to get this guy just so, I can tell everybody, yeah, I'm a Fairweather fan. But up. Shh. I'll be here all week. Tip your waitresses. Kyle Kennard from South Carolina, SEC Defensive Player of the Year. And yet when I watched the film, you know what stood out? Demetrius Knight, the linebacker for South Carolina. I'm sitting there watching Kennard, and Kennard's good. And Kennard's got a motor, and he's tough. He's nasty. But he's rushed only out of a 2-point stance, and he's going to have to get used to rushing out of a 3-point stance. But watching the South Carolina film, I couldn't help but notice the safety, Eman Wari, and then the linebacker, Demetrius Knight. Those guys are intriguing as hell. Marcus Yarns from Delaware, kind of a small back, but a fast back. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of Raheem Mostert. He kind of runs upright, but he's fast. R.J. Harvey, incredibly productive running back from University of Central Florida. And Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt was the MVP of the Shrine Game. Niners met him in Frisco, and I guess he was at the Hula Bowl too. So those are the guys that this is the list, and you should make yourself familiar with it. And she adds to it every time there's a report out, and she'll even tell you who placed, who the source was, the date, where they met. I mean, this is really cool. And as I said, this is sort of the cheat sheet because the Niners do draft a number of players that they meet with. So there you go. It doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't guarantee anything. But you should definitely know who they met with because it's a higher likelihood they'll draft those players that they met with. All right. Let's go to the chat. Let's go to the chat and check it. We got over 1,300 and almost 1,400 people in the room hanging out. Kind of surprised so many people are here on this night, but I appreciate every single one of you. Let's go through the chat. All right, let's see. We got this one. Barry says, I go Matt Barrow's new thriller book, Muddy the Water, today. I need to decompress from football. I'll be reading this book starting tonight. Looks like a good one. Matty's a good man. Good man, good author. One of my favorite guys covering the Niners. He is, as on top of it as anybody. I have great respect for him. Okay, we got this one. Niners_worldwide. Larry, I don't think you stream this much during the regular season. In other words, you're a draft druggie and need to go on True Life. I'm a draft addict. You know what? I actually probably do more in season. You got to remember this, though. When in season, I definitely stream. We stream after the game. We stream on Monday. I stream on Mondays with Grant. I stream on Monday nights, typically now with John Lund. I'm streaming on Tuesday nights with Raj. Wednesday nights, I've been doing some stuff with Cyrus on his channel or my channel or both channels, talking Warriors. Thursday night, I've been streaming with Dieter. Friday morning, I've been streaming with Damon Bruce and Chase Sr. Saturdays is the newest stream. We've been streaming with Chapman on Saturdays, and I'm loving that. I love Chapman, man. Chapman's so fun to stream with, and Chapman's great talking draft with too. He's like me. He'll nerd out on the draft stuff, so he's really fun. But I'm also in Santa Clara all week. So like when I'm in Santa Clara, it's like I'm getting up early, I'm going to practice, I'm out in the sun. So by the time I get home, sometimes I'm just like, whoa, I got to just recharge and maybe do a little workout, get on the treadmill, do something. But Sometimes I'm not in the mood to stream as much during the season if I've been at the facility all day. But of course, we put out videos and we put out practice recaps and all that kind of stuff. So we're doing a lot of stuff there, but we're not maybe doing as much streaming. But Niners _ worldwide, thanks for the shout out. Steve says, let's try to pick up Najee Harris from the Steelers. I suggested that in a video, and lots of people didn't like it, and that's fine. And people are like, you're all over the map. You got to remember this. Most of the suggestions I come up with are based solely on football. Occasionally, I think about the actual people, and I love Najee. Najee's my guy. I mean, Najee's been on my show 3 or 4 times. Najee is, we've had him in studio at KNBR. Najee's my guy. Doug Hendrickson's his agent. He's a friend of mine. And I just love Najee. And I think Najee would love to be in the Bay. And I think Najee's a big power back. And I think if the Niners need to start punching it inside the 5, I like Najee a whole lot more than I like J.P. Mason as far as running it in. Now, what's it going to cost? That's the question. Steve says Debo for Najee swap. Najee's a free agent, so there'll be no swapping. 49er throwback. Hit that like and subscribe button. Yeah, if you hit like, everybody finds the show. If you hit subscribe, more people find us in the algorithm. If you hit subscribe and hit that notification bell, I should say, every time we go live, you'll get that ta-ding. Krug's going live. Don't miss it. And thanks to everybody who supported the channel, man. I was looking at the channel today, some of the numbers, and this is the off season. I mean, in the off season, the channel, we're now sitting at 55,165 subs. And if you've yet to hit to subscribe, please do. I don't say that enough, but please subscribe to the channel. But in season, we get anywhere between like 2.5 and 6 million views per week, or per month, I should say. We in the off season, we're still at 1.3 million views for this month. We've had 1.3 million views of the Krug Show channel just in the last 28 days. So, man, I can't thank you guys enough. I love doing the content. I hope you guys know that. I don't do it for anybody really but myself, and for the people that I know who follow me regularly. I used to do. People say, "Who's your motivation, Krug?" You know, my motivation used to be my grandmother. My Italian grandmother, who used to, until her dying days, used to listen to the show, and she'd call me the next day. She'd be like, "Oh, your diction was amazing." I'm like, "Grandma, do you even like what I'm talking about?" And she's like, "I don't always understand, but you know what? You're so clear, and I tell everybody at my club, that's my grandson." I'm like, "Oh, well, So she was my motivation until she left this earth. She was absolutely my motivation. I probably swear a little bit more since she's left, but what can I say? We got this one out of the blue. Papa J says, throwback in the house. I'm not even sure who he's talking about. We got this one, and it's your boy OG EK Man returns. Let's go Giants. Okay. Is that San Francisco Giants? Hopefully they need some help. David Mazzini says, "God damn, Larry, you're the hardest working man on YouTube." Man, I got all my radio brethren. I introduced them to this, and now they all have channels. And if I don't hustle, they're going to pass me up. No, I'm just joking. But I do love the fact that we kind of did something, right? Got laid off from KNBR in 2022. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Had a friend who was like, "Krug, let's go, bust it big on YouTube." I didn't think it would work, but I'm like, let's do it. And so it's been incredible. And KNBR brought me back to host, to cover the 49ers. And I'm loving Mike Holler and all the people at KNBR for giving me that second, really third stint. I shouldn't say second stint, third stint on the radio. My dad grew up. My dad's no longer with us, but he really raised me on KNBR. So KNBR has always meant more to me than just like another radio station. So when I got the opportunity to come back, it was like, yeah, I want to come back. And now we're getting to do stuff on the radio, and we're doing the YouTube, and KNBR is helping me promote the YouTube, and it's all great. And I'm loving every minute of it. And I love that station. I always will. And I love the people there. And I'm loving, really the great joy. And I don't want to embarrass him, and I'll mention it when he's not here. But, I love working with Kev. It's my oldest son, and he's very talented, and I just love him. And he's helped me immeasurably. I don't want to cry about it, but it is an emotional thing for me. Jeff says, Larry, love your last mock draft taking Walter Nolan in the first. If we unfortunately don't take him in the first, I think we should go Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan. You know what? I love Kenneth Grant. I actually kind of think maybe Kenneth Grant body type is more what I'm looking for. I think if I'm rebuilding this Niner D, I want some big behemoths. I mean, one of the reasons Philly is Jordan Davis. Now, I know Jordan Davis has not been as productive as some of their other defensive linemen, but one of the reasons the Eagles are the Eagles is because that guy is a monster. And what I mean by that is just like he's so big and so wide that you can't, he's just a hard guy to uproot out of there, and he absorbs offensive linemen, and he keeps Bond, totally free. And look at Zach Bond. Zach Bond was just a guy in New Orleans. In Philly, he was an all-pro linebacker, and Jordan Davis has had a big say. So Kenneth Grant, to me, is a better version of Jordan Davis. And the more I watch this stuff, the more I think, man, I think I'd rather have Kenneth Grant than Walter Nolan. Nolan's 290. He's got great pass rush ability, but Grant, if you watch that Buckeyes game, I mean, Grant took it over. I know Mason Graham is considered the better of the two, but I would not be surprised if Grant were the better pro. Colin Cummings, who's your favorite prospect at 11, or do you think the Niners will trade down a few spots and stack up picks? I'm encouraging them to trade back because I think they should trade back. But the guy who is just amazing, and I was watching the Field Yates, Mel Kiper mock draft last night, which is a good show. It's called First Draft, and I would encourage all you guys to watch it. Jalen Walker from Georgia is just a monster. I mean, he's so fast. I mean, when I did the end of the year deep dive on the Niners, and I'm looking, I'm doing the autopsy, I'm trying to figure out what the hell went wrong this year. What kept coming back in my notes is they're just not fast enough. They're just not fast enough. When the Niners went to Super Bowl 54 against the Chiefs, I can remember it like it was yesterday. The Niners and the Chiefs were the two fastest team by GPS in the entire league. There's no doubt in my mind, and there's no doubt in any of your minds if you watched it, that the Niners' defense this year with Devondre Campbell and those guys, they was nowhere close to the speed they used to have. Jalen Walker, the Butkus Award winner, is a ridiculous athlete. I mean, he's on a team with all kinds of ridiculous athletes, but Jalen Walker, number 11 for Georgia, just an absolute freak of nature. This guy can close. Offensive football is about creating space. Defensive football is about closing that space down. Nobody closes like Jalen Walker. Now, can he play linebacker? Because he's a little small to play defensive end. Niners usually go with defensive ends in their wide nine that are around 270. This guy's about 245. So I don't know if he's a defensive end, but he is so fast that I would want to take more views of his stack backer reps and see it, because he might be an all-pro linebacker. I mean, all-pro. And you know what? To me, I'm a real believer that, John Lynch won a Super Bowl with Tampa. How did he do it? Well, he had Derek Brooks, Derek freaking Brooks. That's how they won. Now they had Simeon Rice, and they had Sapp, and they had John, and they had, all kinds of guys. Dexter Jackson, and, all kinds of guys. But they had Hall of Famer Derek Brooks. He was fantastic. When the Niners got to the Super Bowl with Harbaugh, how did they do it? They had Bowman and Willis. How did they get there under Shanahan? They had Greenlaw and Warner. I mean, you got to have these guys. You got to have these guys that control that whole second level. The Niners look, they have it's a 4-3 wide nine. But a lot of times you'll see like a five-man surface and two stacked backers who have to cover that whole second level by themselves. So you got to have guys who can run. And Jalen Walker can absolutely run. So I would say he's my favorite. He's my favorite because he is just electric. I mean, he is like a magnet to the quarterback. Jeff says, Larry, love your last draft. Okay, we got that one. We got this one. JM617. 49ers going all the way, Larry. Let's hope that's true. Trip Aces is Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor is the tight end son of Jason Taylor, who played at Akron and played for Jimmy Johnson and the Dolphins. And the son is uber athletic. Now, the dad is a Hall of Famer. The dad was a freak at 6'6". The son's a little shorter, but he's a really athletic tight end, and I would not be surprised if he winds up as one of the best tight ends in this entire draft. We got this one from Rory McPherson. He says, 49ers trade the 11th pick for more picks in this year's draft, 4 O-line and 4 D-line, then 49ers are fixed. Okay. Big Al says, hope we pick Will Johnson from Michigan. You know, he was hurt a lot this year, but they're comparing him to Surtain. If he's Surtain, it would be awfully nice to have a number one corner. I think they have too many needs in the front seven and too good a talent on the back end to take a corner in round one. But Will Johnson's pretty special. There's no question about that. Rory says Myles Garrett would be too much. I mean, Myles Garrett's awesome, but I mean, I don't want to trade 5 picks. And these people that have these illogical, well, just trade the 11th pick for him. What? I mean, this is Myles Garrett. I would say it's going to take you two ones, 2 twos, and 2 other picks. Get ready for 6 picks. And I just have more confidence in how I want to use those 6 picks than just on one guy. I don't think the 49ers are in that mode. You can't be in that mode if you've missed in the draft. You can't be in the all-in mode on one older player when you've missed like the Niners have missed. Do you realize the Niners have missed 10 picks in the 3rd round alone just in this regime? 10 picks. 10. That's a ton, man. You can't miss 10 times on day 2 of the draft. You just can't. Maybe you're taking too big of risks. I don't know, but, you know, we could do an autopsy, but you just can't do it. And when they went all in on Trey Lance, that hurt them. They went all in on Hargrave, that hurt them. If this was 2 years down the road and they had 2 really big drafts, they had a big draft last year. Let's just say they had a big volume draft this year and a big volume draft next year. Yeah, okay, 2 years from now, if there's a Myles Garrett equivalent and you can get him, yeah, after you have 2 monster drafts or 3 monster drafts in a row, you can go all in on one prospect. But not when you've missed on Trey, you've missed on Hargrave, you're really thin, you got about 16 or 17 different needs on your football team, and you want to go all in on Myles Garrett? What if Myles Garrett tears a quad? Your season's done. Can't do that. Just can't do that. That's not the way I'd play my hand. I want depth. I want numbers. I got confidence I could find guys. That's really it. 49er_throwback says, hit that like button. Appreciate it. Papa J says, look like that offensive tackle got caught on his heels. He's talking about the David Walker bull rush. Yeah. Got thrown on his heels and then on his keister. I don't use keister enough. I need to work keister in more. J49 says, sell it, Larry. Fire. All right. Probably me talking about the Walker. Big Heck 49er Super Bowl LX champs. Love the motor. I love the comment, except we just don't know who we're talking about. I think he's talking about David Walker. We got this from Papa J. David Walker, the new Tanner Mordecai. Exactly. Yeah, I do believe in Tanner Mordecai. I really do. Tanner Mordecai's fast, and you know, it's funny. I asked Brock about him. I said, hey, man, what do you think of Tanner Mordecai? And Brock's like Kyle. He's not a great liar. And he's like, man, Tanner can rip it. And you know what? He's right. He's right. I can't wait for this summer because Mordecai can play, and he was just buried. They just buried him this year. I wanted to ask Shanahan so many times down the stretch, hey, man, we going to see Mordecai? But I just kind of knew, no, we're not going to see Mordecai. We're not going to see Mordecai. But I'll just say this. You guys all know I'm all over Tanner Mordecai. I think he's really good. And I can't wait to see what he does when he knows the system. I mean, he looked good in the preseason last year. When he knows the system and he plays in the preseason and he looks great, just remember who you heard it from first. I can already picture it. It's going to be like September 15th, maybe August 20th, There'll be some content creator who says, you know what? They should never have paid Brock because they have Tanner Mordecai. We'll see. Rory says 49ers will have pass protecting the quarterback and running back protecting. I guess I didn't catch that well. I am become Death Destroyer of words. That all sounds great, but I keep thinking of is Danny Gray. They never used him. Talking about the guy who could run well. Yeah. Well, Danny Gray was good at SMU. But bottom line is every single time he took a hit, whether it be in practice or the game, he looked hurt and couldn't get on the field. Could not get on the field. And then Philly picked him up. They were intrigued, but he still has not been able to do anything. And it's like, some guys, they just are not cut out for the violence of the NFL. And I think he's kind of one of them. He's fast enough. Every single hit he took, he was like, it pained him. We got this one. Rory says, Larry, 49ers sale of the team, $9 billion. They want 10%. They're selling 10% of the team. So, yeah, does anybody in the chat have $900 million? Because if you do, the Niners are if you want 10% of the Niners, you got $900 million laying around. The Niners are like, hey, give us a call. You got $900 million laying around and you want 10% of the team? Man, to have that kind of money. Only Mr. Beast can afford that. Jeff says, Larry, my favorites for pick 11, Walter Nolan, number 1, Kelvin Banks, only allowed 1 pressure all year. Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama, is a total road grader. Mike Green, the edge rusher from the Thundering Herd, and then Kenneth Grant. I like all those guys. I really do. I'll say this. If it's Nolan or Booker or Green or Grant, I think you could probably trade back. I think, the solid play in this situation, and Banks, I think, is going in front of them. But, and he's really good. I've studied him a lot. He's really good. He only allowed 1 pressure all year, no sacks, played really good competition. But if they get to the point where they're on the board and let's say Banks is gone, but the rest of those guys are there, man, see if you can trade back to 15, pick up an extra 3rd-round pick. You trade back for an extra 3rd-round pick, you might get a starter. You might get somebody in the 3rd round that could start for you. And that would be nice. If you could trade from 11 to 15, get an extra 3rd and a 5th or something like that, and then draft Kenneth Grant, man, I would be, that's the way I do it. That's what I would do. But I reserve the possibility to change my mind between now and draft day. Somebody's asking about LeVar Ball's leg. Oh, it was terrible. Poor LeVar. Lost his foot. We got this one, J49. Larry used to drink 40-ounce. What's that? 40-ounce. What is that? Is that a beer? Can't even tell what that is. Yeah, I'm only on water these days, guys. Got rid of soda. Just all water. Look at that. So if you see me shrinking down, you're gonna be like, "Hey, where's the fatter Larry?" Well, I'm not drinking soda. I'm in my training mode. I'm going straight water between now and draft day. Rory's got a bunch of good ones here. He says 49ers trade the 11th pick for more picks. Yeah, trade down a little bit. I think they're kind of right outside that area. If they were in the top 5, just pick. I'll tell you the other one that's going to be interesting is how well does the receivers run? Tetaroa McMillan, they call him T-Mac. Ryan Fowler told me he thought he was going to run that in the workouts before the combine. He's been running sub 4.4 at like 6'5", 215. So if that's the case, man, I can't imagine that T-Mac falls to the Niners at 11. Let's see. 49er quarterbacks are Purdy and Tanner Mordecai. I keep picking Rory, but there's actually other people. This guy says Josh Simmons, Ohio State. It's funny. Kuiper said last night that Josh Simmons could have been a top 3 pick, top 4 pick, except for the injury. And if he's that kind of, if he's better than Paris Johnson, if he's a true impact guy, that might be the pick. You just take Josh Simmons, start your draft with a guy, an offensive tackle that eventually can take over for Trent and maybe be the guy. Now his injuries have got to be investigated because he didn't play a lot this year. But Rory says Josh Simmons ACL tear. He be no good. Well, that would be a concern. That would be a concern. And that's what the combine really is about. The most important part of the combine is the part that we don't see, which is the doctors poking and prodding and figuring out the health situation of these football players. There's some guys who, played college football and they're no worse for wear. There's other guys who played college football and they can't play in the pros because of it. And their body's just beaten down. Rory says Devontae Adams is coming to the 49ers. We'll see about that. I mean, okay, so I like Devontae Adams as much as the next guy. Don't get me wrong. But is Devontae Adams a complementary piece to what they have? Not really. I mean, they already have JJ. JJ is your possession guy. You have Pearsall. Pearsall's a chain mover. He's a continuity piece. You have Cowing, who potentially, if he could get it going and get stronger, could be a deep threat. But he's not really proven, and that's it for speed. You don't really have. I mean, Ayuk is not going to play, I would think, until Thanksgiving, and you could be out of the playoff picture by then. They need another wide receiver. That the biggest wrinkle of this draft is where are the 49ers going to get one more impactful wide receiver? I'd study the draft like crazy for every possible guy. I'll give you a couple late round guys. Darius Maxwell, who played at Liberty College in California, and the other Ole Miss receiver, not Trey Harris, but Anthony Watkins, I think his name is Anthony Watkins. Maybe it's not Anthony. Watkins, the receiver, had 254 yards against Arkansas earlier this year. He is really special. No question. And you might be able to. I've seen him mocked in the 7th round. All right. Jeff says, Larry, is the most likely pick for us, in your opinion, at 11, Walter Nolan, Kelvin Banks, Armand Membo, Kenneth Grant, or Shamar Stewart? Well, I would say it's probably of that group. See, here's the thing. I'm an A&M fan. I watch Shamar Stewart all the time. He was a high recruit, right? Very high recruit, 5-star, I believe. And he's really big. I mean, we're talking about 280 pounds, but he's an edge rusher. So in a way, I just said I'd like to have a big defensive line. And so I'd love to have him, but he's only had 1.5 sacks is the most he's ever had in a year. He did have a bunch of pressures, but he didn't have a lot of sacks. So that's a little concern. Nolan, I think that 11 would be a little early for Nolan. Membu, I should say. I've watched so many offensive linemen for so many years. I can't remember the last time I saw an offensive lineman like this guy. He doesn't ever lunge. He plays over his feet. He stays balanced. He's got super long arms. I mean, I don't know what they're going to measure at the combine, but I'll just say it right now. Membu is going to have crazy long arms. And he stays over his pads. He never is off balance. He looks like more of a guard, though. And I don't know if he's a left tackle. He's maybe more of a right tackle if he plays tackle. I would say the play on this one is probably, of these guys, I would say if everybody was on the board, they'd probably take Kelvin Banks or Membu, probably one of the offensive tackles. If it was me, I would trade back and take one of the other 3 guys. Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, or Shamar Stewart. That's how I play my hand there. J49 says Devontae Adams has a Taco Bell in his house. We got this one from Sacred Intuition. Bringing in Rodgers would be like putting McCaffrey at kick returner and telling him good luck. They're not bringing in Rodgers. They're not bringing in Rodgers. DeMarcus Dixon. David Lombardi said you can't talk about the player the Niners meet with. You're reading. Wait, David Lombardi said you can't talk about the players that the Niners meet with. You're reading far into things. Well, do the math for yourself. Go look at last year's list. Go look at the year before's list. I did. And what I found were 23 players that the 49ers acquired, either in the draft or after the draft or since then, of the players they met with. So let's say they met with roughly, 50 guys a year. So they met with 100 guys, roughly, over the last 2 drafts before the draft. and wound up with 23 of them. So it's you're right. It's not like an indication like every guy they meet with they're going to draft, but every guy they meet with they have sincere interest in, because there's not enough time between the All-Star games and the draft to spend time meeting with guys you have no interest in. So I hear what Dave's saying, but I think I know a little bit more about this than he does, to be completely honest. Riley says, "I'm back, guys." Way to go, Riley. We've missed you. Let's see. Mr. Sweden says, Lowry. How am I supposed to read that? I'm not sure what he meant. We got this guy saying Rodgers going back to Green Bay. Yeah, I'm sure Jordan Love would love that. I am become deaf destroyer of words. Damn it, Larry's giving secrets away with all these picks he wants. That's right. Somebody could be stealing my secrets. Let's see. What else? We got this one from Jason Cabrera, who just says, "Hey, I'm Jason Cabrera. Here's $2. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate you, bro." We got a couple more supers here. Faithful Niner. Should Kyle and or John Lynch attend the combine, and why? Oh, I think they both should. Why? Because you don't get a feel for the players as well on the film as you do when you're standing there watching them. There's the sights of the game. There's also the sounds. You don't get the sounds when you're not there. So I would definitely go, especially because, building through the draft, that's the bloodline to the sport. You're not going to be good if you don't hit the draft. Not going to be good if you don't conquer the draft. And the Niners have been really good in the draft on day 3, but not good on the draft on day 1 and day 2. And that trend cannot continue if they want to win the Super Bowl, and they want to win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, Kyle for sure should be there. I don't know if he will be, but he should be there. Unless, Kyle is, going to defer to the scouting side of the organization. When you see the offensive players that the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan have traded up for, you got to think that he, green-lighted those things. Jalen Hurd, Dante Pettis, Joe Williams, C.J. Beathard. These are all offensive players who can't play dead, who they traded up for because Kyle loved them. So maybe it would be better if Kyle just sat it out. And, here's the other thing, too. I know people take that as an insult. You're insulting Kyle. No, I'm not. What I'm saying is, calling plays, sequencing plays, is a totally different skill set than looking at 5 guys who are all 6'4", 285 and saying, those guys are plumbers, these guys are, undrafted free agents, and that guy's a first-round pick. And that's what Tariq Ahmad can do. That's what, scouts can do. Is they can look at 5 guys who are all 285 and 6'5" and say, this guy's a guy and that guy's a star. This guy's a good player who's going to play a little bit for us. If somebody gets hurt, that guy's they're going to build a statue in front of the stadium eventually for him. And it's a different skill set. And what are the odds, by the way, that the guy who's great at play calling, play sequencing, and all that also has this incredible gift of personnel evaluation? They're different gifts. They're different altogether. One, you have to have a great feel for people and for players. The other is more about your offense and knowing what plays are going to work against what coverages. It's different skill set. So, I'd say, hey, Kyle, your offense works. In a down year this year, when you lost 38 of your 40 touchdowns from your top 3 guys, you still had an offense that was top 10 in DVOA. So your offense works. You are a true offensive guru, all right? But let's find the guy who's an awesome personnel guy and let him give you the players, and you just coach him. Let's try that. And I'm not saying it's going to work, but it's time to try something else, because you've missed 10 times in the 3rd round, and you've only been running the show since 2017. You've missed 20 times in the first 3 rounds since 2017. Why are the Niners a 6-win team this year? That's why. They missed 20 times in the first 3 rounds in 21, 22, and 23 drafts. The Lance pick was horrible. The Hargrave pursuit was an overreach, and they've lost a lot of their quality depth because of those 2 moves. They got to replenish it. They need their 86 draft right now. Walsh took Jerry in 85. In 86, he came back. He traded back 2 times, picked up a couple extra picks. First pick for the Niners was in the 30s, I believe, and they drafted Larry Roberts. They wound up with 8 starters. And what proceeded to follow that? The 49ers' greatest run in the history of their franchise. 87, they go 14-2 and get upset in the playoffs. 88, they win the Super Bowl. 89, they win the Super Bowl and absolutely destroyed John Elway. 90, they were going to win the Super Bowl again, and Roger fumbled, and they didn't go. They were still good in 91. They went to the NFC Championship game in 92. They went to the NFC Championship game in 93. They went to the Super Bowl in 94. A lot of those guys that were part of that core, McKyer, Griffin, Fagan, Rathman, Haley, the Hall of Famer, Wallace, these guys all came from that 86 draft. That's the draft the Niners need. And it's a really deep draft at tight end, at running back, at defensive tackle. And the Niners probably could use 2 defensive tackles and maybe 3. And they could definitely use 2 tight ends. So it's like, you know what? This sets up nicely, I think, for them to have a volume-based draft. Trade down into the 20s. Start your draft with a Kenneth Grant or a Walter Nolan or Shamar Stewart or somebody like that. And then have 15 picks and hit on 12 of them. That's how you're going to get back with Philly. That's how you're going to run with the Chiefs and the best teams in football. Thank you, Faithful. Jason Cabrera says, Larry, I'm at the Hard Rock in Wheatland. I just dropped $500 into the slot machine. You're a lot cheaper. Can you please slam a beer? I don't have a beer in front of me right now. I do have a Heineken in the house I could slam. How about I'll slam the rest of this water for you? There we go. There we go. That was fun though. Kev put up a thing saying if we get a certain number of supers, my dad will chug a Heineken. This was on the Super Bowl postgame. It's funny because John Lund called me. He's like, dude, that was genius. I got to figure out how to do that. I need to be slamming beers for money too. I'm like, Johnny, you know, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than slamming a beer and having a bunch of people say, hey, we'll pay you to do it. Jason, thanks for the super. All right, that is going to do it. Kev said, hey, Dad, why don't you go like 20 minutes? And here we are, an hour and 17 minutes later, and I'm still talking. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. And we got this one from Rory. Larry, trade Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk for Xavier Worthy. God, isn't that illustrates the mistakes the Niners have made? You're trading Deebo, who they signed to a deal 2 years ago. You're trading Ayuk, who they just signed to a deal last year. They're both getting traded. So what can we say? 49ers got to have one big-time wide receiver this offseason. Z9er says, Larry chugged the microplastics. Dusty Gold said, no Pliny. Oh, I love Pliny. Tolbert got me going on Pliny the Elder, and it's like one of my favorite beers of all time. I mean, I love Pliny the Elder. It's like the perfect beer. And I've even had some Pliny the Younger, but the Pliny the Elders have been really, really good. It's going to cost you. It's not cheap, but they're so good. So good. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. If anybody has one last question, feel free to throw it in there. But I just want to say thanks to all you guys. First, of course, we are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, all on the Monterey Peninsula. Go see my friend Anthony Catania or give him a call. He's at 831-521-5264. Anyway, and that's going to do it for us tonight. We're an hour and 20 minutes into the live stream. Thanks to everybody who jumped in here. Wow. 1,600, almost 1,700 people watching. Appreciate every single one of you guys. Jeff says, Larry, you really think Mikael Williams is a third-round guy? No. Mikael Williams is super blue chipper. He's going to go high. You got to remember this. We're now out of football season and into combine season. That guy is one of the most dominating athletes in the whole draft. I mean, he's legit 270 and he's ripped. I mean, he's absolutely incredible. He just doesn't dominate quite like I think a guy that physically dominant should. And I like him. I don't love him. I think somebody comped him to Trayvon Walker. I think it's a great comp just simply because Trayvon Walker has been a really good NFL defensive end, but he ain't Hayden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson's a superstar. Aiden Hutchinson's right there with Bosa or better, right? I kind of see the same thing for Mikael Williams. He's not going to be a bust per se. He's going to play in the NFL. He's too big, too strong, too fast, too athletic. He's going to play. But I just don't think he's going to be a superstar. I see superstar. I see Jalen Walker, his teammate, as a linebacker. I don't see a superstar with Mikael. He's really, really athletic. So I would say he's going to go in the top 10. Definitely in the top 20. But I think he's just going to be good and not great. I'd be really shocked if Mikael Williams wound up being just a great, great player. But I don't think he's a third-round guy. I think he's like 10 to 20, as I said. What's this one? Whale and Wasp. Larry, did you know your fans that are cats? No, I don't. I don't know any of my fans that happen to be cats. I'm not a big cat man myself. I always pretended to like cats. Jacob Gordon says, good job, Larry. If you have these streams, we'll show up. You know what? That's the coolest part about all of this is that when we do streams like this, the beauty of it is that you guys all do show up. And it's the beauty of the way the kind of the YouTube algorithm works. And you get that little alert and everybody can watch it on their own time. We got this one from Dusty Gold. Ty Robinson. Yeah, if there's one team I would say go watch, and you can watch two guys at once, kill two birds with one stone, go watch Nebraska's front. They have a guy named Nash Hutmacher, who's like 166-0 as a wrestler, and he's 6'6", 340, something like that, 330. Just a big, hulking badass. I mean, he's just incredible. Nash Hutmacher, just a country boy strong. And he plays next to this guy, Ty Robinson. And Ty Robinson, guys, reminds me, and, I hate to, compare the white guy to the white guy, but he kind of reminds me of Keith Millard, who played for Minnesota with Chris Dolman years ago in the late 80s and early 90s, who's actually a Bay Area guy. I love Keith Millard. He lives out in Pleasanton here in Northern California. But Keith Millard was a badass, and he was just like country strong and just really quick. And him and Chris Dolman in the late 80s were beastly. They were so awesome. Then they added Henry Thomas, I believe, after that, and they even became more awesome. But yeah, they were coached by Floyd Peters, I believe, at the time, former Niner D-line coach, who was a great coach, no longer with us. But Ty Robinson is 6'6", 310, and he is just he plays a little too upright, but he's fantastic. Fantastic player. Go watch Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher and tell me how much you like those guys. We got this one from Jeff. Larry, he reminds me of Aldon Smith. Are you talking about not Ty Robinson? He's talking about Mikael Williams, I'm sure. What else? Jason Coelho. Larry's head weighs 50 pounds. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. What else? We got this one from Jeff. Great job tonight, Larry. Thanks for everything. Thank you, Jeff. You're the man. Christopher Byers. Larry, how is your new oven? Thanks, Chris. You know what? We got the oven installed. We had to have it lifted over the counter. And it's great. It's been fantastic. It's really nice, too, because we had an oven before that if you put it at 350, it would go to 350. But if you put it at 425, it would just shut off. And so we, obviously we had to get a new oven. It sucks to get a new oven, but it definitely looks good. It looks good, and it's better than the old one. And the old one was done anyway, so it was time for a new one. But thanks for asking. Frankie says, I picked David Walker up on all my mocks. All right. Yeah, no question. This guy, user BK4MS2TG1R, says 6'4", 330. I think that's Nash Hutmacher. Mr. Swedgton. I bet three Quatloos. Lowry's head weighs 51 pounds. All right, now you're pissing me off. No. Now you're really getting to me. We got this one from Christopher. He says, Larry, did you burn anything in your new oven yet? I did. I had some. It's so funny. My wife's always mad at me because if I have chicken nuggets or something or whatever, I like it to be a little crispier. I mean, I don't want it to be, raw. I'd rather have a little overcooked nugget than an undercooked nugget. And then my family gives me a hard time. Rory McPherson, Larry, 49er need get a defensive lineman from University of Kentucky. Is 8 feet tall, 400-pound defensive lineman. You're talking about Deontay Johnson or Deontay Jackson or whatever. How tall is Larry? Larry is 6'2". Not 5'5". Now my Kev is probably 5'11". My son Ben is probably 5'11 and a half. My son Christopher is probably about 5'10. And I am 6'1" and change, but we round up to 6'2". There you go. All right, that's going to do it for us. I'm bolting for the door. Wait a second, we got another soup here. Claw Daddy Arcade's in the house. He said, much love, LK. Get some rest and relaxation in AZ. Claw Daddy, let's meet down there and have a beer. So Claw Daddy Arcades is going to be one of our sponsors for our spring training trip, of which we have 3 right now, and we can have one more. So if anybody would like to sponsor our trip to spring training, we will be going to the desert. We're going to be taking in some Giants games. We're going to watch some games. We're going to play some golf. We're going to do some live streaming, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to go sit on that berm in Salt River in like a 90-degree day. I've heard that the weather's been really warm down there. I'm really, really fired up. My son is falling in love with golf, and I want to take him and play some desert golf. I want to go check out my gyros before the games matter. And I want to go into the clubhouse and interview some of the players. I really enjoy talking to the players, whether it be football players, basketball players, baseball players. It's what I think I do best. I'm not sure, but I enjoy it. And so I'm going to go in there and try to talk to Elliot Ramos and Marco Luciano and Casey Schmidt and just some of the guys getting ready for the season. Looking forward to that. Dusty Gold says, Mrs. Kruger wants to trade in Larry. No sizzle. Thank you. There may be some truth in that. You never know. Taylor Gang says, great job tonight, Larry. You're not lazy, Larry. Oh, man, I miss Urbanic. My old buddy, my old scouting buddy. He said, I love you, Larry. Nobody's smarter than you, boy. And then he'd be like, but you're fucking lazy. Hey, Coach, I thought you loved me. Now I'm effing lazy? It's like, and it was all because I only worked from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and he wanted me to work from 4:45 to midnight. And so guess what? Guess what I worked after about 3 days of working for him? He's like, man, you're lazy, Larry. I'm like, Coach, I'm not lazy. I woke up at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. I got here at 7 a.m. I didn't leave till 7 p.m. I worked 12 hours. He's like, this is pro football, boy. I'm like, all right. He's like, how about this? I'll pick you up. I'll drop you off. Then you don't have to worry about ever being lazy again. I'm like, all right. And then he drops me off at my house. I'm like, all right, what time are you going to pick me up tomorrow? He's like, 1:45. You better be out here. And I take like 3 steps towards my house, and I turn around. I'm like, 1:45 what? He's like, 4:45. 4:45. I'm like, 4:45? You're going to be here at 4:45 in the morning? He's like, yeah. So he picks me up at 4:45. We drive out to the facility. We watch film all day. We worked out. We went, everything. Practice, 2-a-days, everything. You name it. And then he wants to have dinner. And then we're putting together practice schedules the next day. These football coaches work themselves to death. It's one of the reasons I'm not I decided to jump out for radio, because I wanted to have a regular life. These guys work and work and work and work and work. But yeah. And then seriously be like 1:15 in the morning. I'm like, are we going home anytime soon? Yeah, we're getting out of here. We're getting ready to get out of here. Drop me off at 1:45 at my house. He's like, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 4:45. You better sleep fast, boy. Oh, man. What can I say? I miss that guy. Bazzy Mion says, any relation to Jackson Kruger Sports, who has a YouTube channel and also speaks on the NFL? No relation. Let's see. What else do we have here? A lot of interesting questions here. We got this one. I am become deaf destroyer of words. I'm 6'2". Oh, we got this one from Mitchell and Ness. He wants a Bryce Eldridge interview. Yeah, I can go with that. Hey, Bryce, I hear you're a circus defensively. Nah, that would be a bad way to start the interview. But I would love to see that kid get to the bigs, man. This year would be better. This year would be better than next year. All right, I keep saying I'm going to go, but I am going to go. Thank you all to all of you guys, almost 1,700 people hanging out in the room. We're an hour and a half into this thing, and I can go no longer. I have to hit the treadmill and get myself in shape. I'm drinking water. I quit soda, but if I'm going to lean out, I gotta get on that treadmill. Got to get on that treadmill. All right, guys, thanks to all of you. Appreciate every single one of you. Until next time, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what